Okay, so we are going to look at some special factoring today. When we factor and when we use special factoring formulas, I think it's key for you to remember that the formulas that you absolutely without a doubt need to remember are your cube formulas and your difference of squares. Other formulas can always be used, such as like a perfect square trinomial. You can get to that using the AC method, but without a doubt, you need to know the formulas for cubes and squares. So when you see something like example 1 here, where we just have two terms, your first step always with any factoring problem is going to be to pull out your greatest common factor if you can. And in this case, we see that we have a 3 in each of these terms. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out a 3. Now you have c to the 8th minus p to the 8th. And your first reaction might be, how can I factor that? You know, I have two terms, but it's to the 8th power. It's not a square or a cube. But we need to think a little bit harder about the number 8. So the way that I tell students to kind of think about this is, if you think about, is there a way that you could have, you know, your 3 on the outside, and then c to what power here, all squared, and let me put a bracket there, and I don't want to confuse you and make you think that's a 0. So let's just put c to the question mark here. Okay, so c to what power here, all squared, would give us c to the 8th. And the same thing for the p. So p to the question mark, all squared. Okay, now the 3 is just going to hang out on the outside. So we aren't really going to worry about that anymore. But if you think about, okay, well, what would go in the question mark times 2 that would give me 8? And the answer is 4, right? So I can rewrite this, and then you see that you have a difference of squares. So I now have 3 times c to the 4th, all squared, minus p to the 4th, all squared. And now I can use my difference of squares formula, which we know is a squared minus b squared equals a plus b, a minus b. And it doesn't matter what order those are in, but those are what it breaks down to. So using that formula, and if you let c to the 4th be a, and p to the 4th be b, then I can go ahead and rewrite this. So now I have 3 times c to the 4th plus p to the 4th times c to the 4th minus p to the 4th. And now you might be thinking you're done, but when it comes to factoring, we always need to make sure that we can factor everything completely. And so when you see this, my hope is that you would check. We know that we can't factor a sum of squares, so this is not factorable. But here we know that, I can use the same technique I just applied, and then I can break this term down even farther yet. So what this will become is another difference of squares. So if you think about this as being written as c squared all squared minus p squared all squared, okay, you can kind of see how that would break down again. So now you have, using our formula, 3, c to the 4th plus p to the 4th, that's going to stay. Okay, and then we have c squared plus p squared and c squared, whoops, I'm going to run out of room here, c squared minus p squared. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can rewrite it a little bit lower down here. Okay, so let me write it down here. So you'd have your 3 c to the fourth plus p to the fourth. I think I'm still going to probably run out of room here. And c squared plus p squared. Yep, sorry about that, guys. And c squared minus p squared will be your last step. Okay, but we're not done yet, are we? So now we look at that c squared minus p squared term. So let's just go to the next slide here. So now you've got, just to recap, a c to the fourth plus p to the fourth. And then you have, we took that other term, so now you have c squared plus p squared times c squared minus p squared. And as you might guess here, now I can continue to factor that one down even farther. Okay, so using that difference of squares formula, if you keep getting those even exponents up here, you know, that are divisible by 2, you want to always think about, can you continue to break that down? So using that difference of squares formula again, this is basically what you're going to end up with. C plus P Okay, so very long answer here, but that is what 3c to the 8th plus 3p to the 8th would factor into. Okay, so very, very long, but you're continually just using that formula to break it down as much as you can. So I hope this helps. Let's try another one.